We are here and ready to begin.
Welcome. Thank you very much for returning to speak with us. Do you have anything that you would like to talk about this morning? We're certainly interested in the further descriptions of the paradigm shifts on Earth that you're perceiving.
We do. We would prefer to hold it off until later in the session. We would prefer to proceed with any questions that you might have, and at the end of the session, we will continue our discussion.
All right, very good. One thing I wanted to ask about is some phenomenon that some of us have been engaging in on the Earth plane that seem rather strange to us, and we're wondering if we could get some kind of description of what's happening in such phenomena, for example, as spoon bending, or the metal bending, or fire walking, things of that sort, which we now seem to be able to do, but don't understand why we can do it.
This is just a small part of what you are capable of doing, a very, very small part, a part that shows you that there is much more out there, that you are capable of controlling your energies in much wider and greater form than ever you imagine. The ability to put airplanes into the sky and spaceships out into the universe are also similar examples. It is what you believe that you are capable of doing that causes the effects. The spoon bending is just one example of using energy in a way that you can see that it does take place. The same as firewalking, there is nothing to it. It's just the matter of what you believe. As we have discussed before, it is your beliefs that are your limitations. They also will set you free.
But it seems to us that the firewalking is hard for us to believe that the body doesn't react with all of our training about the nature of fire and the nature of the impact of fire on our bodies, how it is possible physiologically for that process to be altered.
It is because your mind tells your body that it is not going to react the same way that when the mind tells the body that it will burn, it will burn. There is no different other than you are looking at the thought form itself. The same as with many of your gurus who are able to put pins through their arms and feel no pain and have no reaction, the same as you are aware of those individuals who have been hurt and are able to stop bleeding when it would appear that their entire life should be taken because of the massive amounts of blood that they are losing. All these are what you call miracles in your planet Earth, but they are not so miracles. They are merely the true nature of things. They are not supernatural. They are natural. It is those on your planet who choose not to believe so.
Could we walk on water if we thought we could?
You certainly could.
I'm
You
not.
could fly if you thought you could also, and you do, but you usually do not take the body along with you. As you are aware, there are certain animals that are capable of running across the water because of the lightness and the way that they trip quickly across the water content. Man could do also as soon as man stops to hesitate to think about it. However, he is lost and he chooses to sink because he believes it cannot be done. But it has been done before. It can be done again. Are you any different than those who have done so?
Well, we were able to firewalk, so I guess that's the first step.
The first step also is to go quickly and do not think about it. You would be able to find if you tried to walk on water that if you set your mind to it and went a small bit at a time, you indeed would be held up for a short period of time.
Um, the same question has arisen with respect, I guess, to firewalking that would arise in connection with walking on water. That is, could one stand in it, stand in the fire or stand in the water without if one believed strongly enough that that was possible.
They could on your planet. It's very hard for someone to reach that particular belief. There are those who have been known to stand in fire or on beds of coal for significant periods of time. However, it is a very hard belief that one must overcome, that at some point they will not be destroyed. It is possible to put a protective shield around one and to stand much longer than the quick walking through that you see in most circumstances.
Yes, when I tried to do the firewalk, or when I did do the firewalking, I had the image that I was holding my consciousness outside my body, sort of above and slightly to the right of my body, and that seemed to work for me. But I suppose those kinds of mental images are not really relevant. It's the question of simply the belief.
This is correct. But because you put your image outside of your body, you were able to go ahead with what it was that you wished to do. You could have kept the image in your body if you preferred, or you could have totally left and just let the body walk through on its own. It is more relevant to have your consciousness paying some attention to what is going on with the body in these circumstances.
I'm not sure how that kind of phenomena works in connection with the autonomic nervous system. We assume that the autonomic nervous system is taking care of the body, even though we are paying no attention to that. Somehow, though, we're able to suspend that activity, I guess is what happens.
You must look to see what is controlling the autonomic nervous system. It is not, quote, automatic as you might think. There is that part of you which is controlling it. It does not run just because it is switched on. It runs because your own unconscious tells it to run and how to run. And so it is not like you are not there having some input into the system.
In the spoon bending exercise, can you say something about what is happening to the metal as a person concentrates on trying to bend it mentally?
It is merely the fact that the metal itself is heating up with the energy which comes in from the universe, and as the molecules begin to separate, then they are therefore easily moved apart, and you're able to bend the spoon. It does become warm, but at the part that you are bending it, should you touch it at the part where it is bending, you would see that indeed it is actually hot.
Mm-hmm. Very good, thank you. I had some questions I had been thinking about one of the distinguishers among individuals on the earth plane is that they tend to be either right-handed or left-handed primarily. And I'm wondering about the physiological mechanism that seems to go along with that, and also whether there is some larger meaning besides the physiological.
If you will give us a moment, please, we must make sure that Winter is not around when we are discussing this question, and so we wish to take her out somewhere. And so give us a moment and we will return.
Thank you very much.
We may proceed now. Actually, handedness is a cultural event having very little or nothing to do with the person who chooses to use their right or left hand. If when you are bringing up a child, if you would work with the child to use both hands, a child could quite easily be ambidextrous. Even when a child seemingly prefers one hand over the other, it is not a preferral. It is more a modeling behavior of what he has seen you as the adult do. Therefore, it is not as significant as you might think. By the same token, when we start to look at the hemispheres of the brain, you will see that actually everything can be done in both hemispheres of the brain, and it is not as significant to separate what the left hand is doing or the right hand is doing by which portion of the brain is working.
Can you tell us why you needed to remove Winter from this discussion?
Because we felt that with her background and her own ego, should she hear some of the conversation that we are saying, she would attempt to filter it by her own belief system. We felt that possibly what we were going to say would not be consistent by what she believes, and it is much easier to carry forth the conversation if we do not have to argue with her over what will be filtered.
We appreciate that. Well, then, from what you're saying, I gather that there's no particular relationship between being left-handed and being primarily right-brained.
This is correct. And if the scientists would spend more time, although this is not their major area of concern right now, however, if they were able to spend more time working with the right and left-handed people and looking at both hemispheres of the brain without being locked into a concept about how it works. As we were talking yesterday, the brain itself is like a hologram, and therefore all takes place in the entire brain at once. Then it would make little difference whether someone was right-handed or left-handed and how their brain works. It would be just as easy to reverse the situation and say those whose predominantly are right-handed, and if you go on your old theory that if they're right-handed they must use their left brain a lot, you could switch that around to say that those who are left-brained are artistic and creative, and it wouldn't make any difference. You would find that indeed they could be artistic and creative, and certainly there is some information beginning to leak forth from some of the studies which would show that it doesn't make any difference, that everything does take place in the brain simultaneously, and all knowledge is available to the individual in no matter what part of the brain they are using.
That's very interesting.
As you are aware, the brain is still just the receptacle, the radio for the ultimate information. And therefore, this is where the misconception lies. The good part about research that is being conducted today is that the scientists continually try to narrow down what portion of the brain something takes place. And of course, this is not the answer. As they work to narrow down, they will find that it is not in the brain at all. And unless they expand their own viewpoint, then where will they be? Hopefully with us.
You'd welcome them, huh?
Yes.
Very good. I wanted to ask about a number of brain disorders that have to do with, or that seem to interfere with learning. An example would be what we call dyslexia. I wonder if you could talk some about the nature of that disorder and whether it is in fact related to some kinds of phenomena in the brain.
Not precisely in the brain itself as you would think about it. As you are aware, it is also a perceptual problem, but the problem is something that is perceived outside of the brain and outside of the individual itself. It is also promoted primarily by the individuals around. Supposedly, we are speaking of a child at the beginning, the individuals around the child who give the child information that is not correct and are quick to try to push the child into a learning behavior before the child is ready for this behavior. If they would let the child go at his own pace and learn at his own way with his own skills, we would not have the problems of dyslexia. The models of learning that are used on the planet today are not necessarily the best models for learning, and they need to back up a bit and let the child learn what he will at whatever pace he wishes to, and it may not be reading and writing first. Indeed, it may be other things that perhaps are a bit more creative, or it may be more mathematical skills. but it can be if the people working with a child in the beginning, and this is primarily the parents, do not put emotional stress onto the child, then the child will not program into his mind the fact that he is a failure and thus create the problems that will continually cause him to fail and also continually cause him to be unable to read or to do those things his parents wishes him to do.
Well, now you're speaking, it seems like an environmentalist. And where is the individual's choice in relation to that?
The individual as the soul that is learning is that the individual that we are speaking of at this point in time. The choice is there from the very beginning to withdraw or to go forth and to challenge those ideas that are being put upon the child himself. And the child, the soul, certainly can choose to obey or disobey the parents. His choice is usually to pull inward so that he has control over a situation that his parents are trying to take control of. It is very little different from those individuals who choose to either starve themselves or to eat to obesity. It is their way of controlling, and your learning disabilities are also a way of taking control, although it would not seem so. It is true. If you would work with these children and put them in an auto-hypnotic state, you would find that when they came out, they would be able to read and function as well as any other student. It is a matter of getting to them and getting through the block and talking to them about what purpose they have for choosing to create problems with the way that they see things.
I heard a story about an individual who had such a learning disorder, who who had received information that the difficulty had arisen in connection with the the soul entering the body. That there had been some disagreement about the soul chosen to enter the body, and in this interaction somehow there was some damage caused. Is this conceivable?
This is possible. As you are aware, everything is possible, and it could be that in the blocking out and the controlling mechanism at that point in time, that particular soul chose to be unable to function clearly in the world because of some circumstances around why they were choosing to come in or to not come in. We do not know the soul that you are speaking of, and therefore it is not something that, unless we travel to the body, which we could do, we are able to speak on at this point in time.
Could there be a struggle among souls for a particular physical body?
Usually, no, this is not the case. There are some individuals who would think that the souls are out there all fighting for the beautiful universal body, but no, this is not the case. There are usually those souls that are ready to reincarnate and come back in pretty much know what it is that they need to look like and what life patterns they need to go through. And there are not too many instances of where there's more than one soul wanting the same body. It is all taken care of very nicely in the universe.
Are there enough bodies to go around for all the souls who wish to incarnate?
I know that this is a ponderous question that often those on your planet say no, and certainly I believe Mr. Monroe is quick to say there are many more souls out there wanting bodies, and certainly there are times when bodies are possessed by lower spirits where there's more than one spirit inhabiting the body. But for the most part, because of timing and because there is no timing here, there are enough bodies at any point in time for those souls that wish to work on the planet to come in and to work with. You must remember there are other realities going on, and we do not necessarily need bodies on your planet to take care of the things that are going to be learned from this side. And there are many things that can be learned only at this level, and a body would be useless for us to have.
Yes, I had a lot of feeling for that. We, as you know, we have two visitors in our laboratory this morning. Phil and Ellen are with us, and we have a couple of questions from Phil.
Very good. That is fine.
All right. One of them is a biggie, I guess. I'll ask the smaller one first here. This is not really a small question either. He asks, are we right in placing so much emphasis on the value of a single human life?
This is a good question. As you are aware, when you look at the metaphysical viewpoint, the single human life is but a fly speck in a multitude of a universe. It is but a less than a grain of sand in the entire picture. And certainly the single human life does come round again and again, perhaps not in that particular body form. Because the soul cannot die, there is, of course, the concept that the human life makes little difference. And when you look to some of the countries that are suffering today, you begin to wonder if we should be spending so much time looking at a single human life. But the bottom line to our way of thinking is yes, you should pay attention to the single human life, because the soul in that life is there learning particular skills and problem solvings and means and ways of being that help that particular soul grow. And if you did not place emphasis on human life and on caring for others, you would not be helping your own soul grow, because that particular human life is, as you're aware, your own life. And so if you have no respect for a single human life outside of your own, you are not going to grow.
In connection with that, um, is it appropriate for us to give a good deal of our attention to the struggles of peoples in other parts of the world and so on? Is this a useful thing for them or for us to give a lot of our attention to that?
There are many more things in your country at this point in time you should be paying attention to, although, of course, it is always well to be concerned with your fellow man and to realize that you are all mankind, and it's not this country, nor is it that country, but it is the total oneness that your planet must come to grasp with. However, on your own continent, there are many things going on that the people on your continent should be aware of and should be turning their interest into looking at the poverty that is there, the crime that is there, and numerous other elements that need to be taken place, and the reasons for these things need to be looked at and adjusted. It is easy for those who are in a middle class situation to look to the starving people in Ethiopia and think that they are buying their salvation by sending them money and grain, when in fact there are people starving under their nose for one reason or another, and they are ignoring them because they are neighbors. Their country has also taken to a form of of protectionism and potential for violence that is not good. There is too much use of arms. There's too much taking up arms. There is too much fundamental theory being passed throughout your country that is not consistent with the laws of the universe. This fundamental theory, the fundamental conceptions, have potential to cause much harm on your particular continent if those who are more in line with the nonviolent way of thinking do not rise up and make themselves heard a bit more. And there is the paradox, because most people who are passive and nonviolent are also not aggressive or assertive and are very quiet. And it is those who tend to be more belligerent and aggressive that can cause the most harm.
Phil works and teaches in the area of criminal justice. I wonder if you have any messages for him that will be helpful in his work.
When we look to the criminal justice system, we must look to see exactly what is being taught and what we need to teach. We must look to see whether we are talking about trying to catch those people who are dangerous and whether we are trying to catch them and lock them up, or whether we are looking for the true causes and what we can do about the true causes. The concern right now between the shifts on the planet to lock numerous people up is not the way that you are going to solve the problems that arise from the within the justice system itself. The other problem with the justice system is not something you can teach unless those that you are teaching do go on to be lawyers and ultimately judges. That is the only place that you will be able to effect change, because it is in the highest part of the judicial system that you have many of your problems. There are many who are sitting judging who should not be judging, and the very term judge is not something that we actually have room for on the planet or in this particular plane. One must be extremely fair, and one must be totally objective when weighing what you are doing with one's life and what you are going to do with others' lives and how it can best be functional. So it would say for you to start by teaching fairness and by teaching the students that they must be able to see the total picture, always to be able to back up and see the total picture of what is going on and how what is going on and how what they will do will affect the total, not just one particular case, not just one particular point in time. He may ask other questions. We see a cloud. We would like to break through the cloud.
Do you have a follow-up question? You'd like to use this mic right here.
The information you gave is very broad, and teaching students about fairness is such a broad thing. Can you be more specific?
We can give you examples if that is what you like. We believe that you could bring in cases and teach the people to think. At this point in time, students do not know how to think. They are mainly spoon-fed. We suggest that you bring forth actual cases that show both fairness and unfairness, and teach the students how to read into cases. Perhaps there will be cases where no decision has been made, but narrow it down and teach them to weigh all the answers, possibly using some of your background in perception to teach them how things are not as they seem. For instance, if you can teach the students using the method of what is called a reverse print, where what you see on what is called a reverse print is not actually what is there. If you can teach the students something like this so that they realize that they are not seeing the total picture, then by the very method of teaching them to think will help them automatically in their future endeavors. We do suggest that you use various types of casework and or situations to get them to see the total picture, and often you can leave out a certain element, but a crucial element, and have the students only at the last minute. You may give them the crucial element, or maybe they do not know that it is missing at all, and like many individuals, they will jump to their conclusions before all the facts are in.
One of the difficulties I detect is that there's a growing acceptance of revenge as a justification for responding to those who commit crimes, and a frustration with trying to help those who commit crimes. How can we better address this?
The concept of revenge is what I was addressing earlier with those who are willing so quickly to take up arms, as opposed to seeing the total picture of what they are doing. The revenge concept is a thought form that is right now in the collective unconscious, and the ultimate way that that is going to be solved is by working to change the thoughts, by pulling in studies and showing that revenge is not the answer, Unfortunately, many of these individuals who choose the path of revenge are not into metaphysical aspects and do not realize that it will come back on them. It is not until these individuals learn that what they send out comes back tenfold that truly the concept of revenge will die a graceful death. You can only be a model.
Yes, thank you for that. Another question Phil wanted to ask about was what is morality? And I guess I would want to add to that, is morality something that's limited to the earth plane, or do you deal with issues of morality on your level also?
No, we do not. Morality is your concepts, and we prefer that you keep them. As you are aware, morality is a concept that calls for judgments. We do not have judgments on this plane. We do not have right and wrong or good or bad. We have things that just are. Morality is a concept that sprung from times further past than you could ever imagine, times when there was a necessity to control individuals, and the control was first put forth in a concept of what morality was. It was not until those in charge started to try to control individuals and to define what they could and could not do that the term morality came out and into being. And thus morality is an individual thing that's governed by whoever happens to be holding a specific belief about what it is. On our planet, because we are all one, and I'm saying planet just to give you a different space and time, because we are all one, there is no need to judge whether something is moral or immoral. There is no room for the concepts.
One of the ways that our morality seems to focus in child raising has to do with the handling of certain kinds of emotions, particularly anger, which I guess gets involved in the revenge issue also. Are we missing ways in which we can handle this sort of thing in our child raising that would be much more beneficial?
By the very concept of focusing in on the anger, which the child may be just picking up from the thought forms around it. It may not totally be the child's anger, as is often the case. By the adults focusing in on this particular concept, on this particular anger, they give credence to it and make it stronger. The way to avoid it is to look to yourself if you are around the children and look to see where the anger is coming from and what in that particular environment the child is picking up that will cause the child to be angry. Not all children pick up on anger. There are many who never ever experience a feeling of anger. And this is not because the child has a certain personality trait. It has to do with what the child is aware of and what is going on around it. So it is mainly the fact that the adults must, in their training, look to see when a child is angry exactly what has gone forth that the child, who is very sensitive and highly intuitive, has picked up, and why he has chosen to absorb this particular feeling that you call anger. The same is true as when you see a child throw a temper tantrum, to look and see what has gone on just prior to that, before the temper tantrum ever arises, that may possibly be the cause of such state.
All right, very good. Would you like now to get back to the paradigms you were talking about?
Yes, we will proceed with our concept of the paradigms. We are mainly focusing in on the concept that if you take, say, your field of psychology, there are several different paradigms which discuss the nature of things and what causes things. For example, let us look at the paradigm of emotion and what causes emotion. As you are aware, there are several theories on emotions, as well as there are several theories as to which comes first, whether it is emotion or behavior. We say that neither comes first in the individual, that the emotions are, as Mr. Monroe would say, are all out here just waiting to be tapped up. And the individual who happens to be in a particular point in time will just tap into a particular emotion. This can be readily observed by those individuals who pick up emotions of others who are not at the same place and time that the individual is. Say someone in the lab can easily go pick up the emotions of someone who is not here on the grounds at the Monroe Institute. This is one of the first things that need to be looked at and to be changed when we are looking at the concept of what emotions are, whether we're dealing with anger, sadness, or what have you. This is something that is beginning to shift. There are other feelings, other viewpoints, and concepts within your field that should be looked at carefully. For example, the concept of attraction and all the numerous studies that have gone on around the concepts of attraction and why people are attracted to one another. It has nothing to do with many of the concepts of liking or not liking as those on your planet see them, but it has to do with prior knowledge of particular energies and prior things that have gone on with particular energies, and the liking disliking stems from past lifetimes, not from immediate things that are going on at this point in time. If we move to another area, say as anthropology, we need to get the anthropologists to back up and to start looking at what it is that they are trying to rescue, what their thought forms are when they are trying to bring forth old vessels and artifacts, and they need to start to look to see what is there that will help build with the psychologists into a new form, a new answer of a new science. And then if we move to look at those who are in physics, they are working perhaps the most diligently to bring to you a new science, and many of their concepts are extremely accurate. The problem is that those in physics are very isolated, and when they are discussing their quantum mechanics or any other theories that they are bringing forth, it is not the psychologists who are looking to see how those theories fit in with their theories of emotions. And these two things can be linked, and can be linked quite easily if the two disciplines would merge. Do you have questions?
Well, yes, that raises many questions. For now, though, let me just return to the second one you mentioned, the attraction studies. Could you illustrate what you mean by the prior knowledge of particular energies that relate to attraction?
Yes, this is an easy question. This is because in your attraction studies there are numerous concepts, as you are aware, of why people are attracted to each other. One of your main concepts being similarities, and ranging off from there. The prior knowledge is actually what attracts, because as you spend time with energies from which you had an original function, an original togetherness prior before ever incarnating, these energies are the ones that you go through many lifetimes with, and just like a magnet, thus you are attracted to them when you meet them again on your plane. And the psychologists would say they are attracted because they look the same, they have the same values, the same belief systems. On the superficial level, this could be said, yes, perhaps they do, but the reason that they do has nothing to do with things on the planet or the time and space they are in now. It has to do with that knowing which goes back to universal time, and a knowing which has nothing to do with material things on your particular planet. And oftentimes, it is interesting, we find that the psychologists make up a theory for no matter what happens, whether people have similar viewpoints. They say they are attracted because they have similar viewpoints, and if they don't have similar viewpoints, they say they are attracted because they are opposite. So it makes little difference what happens. They have a theory for it. The real theory is they have known each other from the very beginning. They are like a magnet. The gravity between the two energies brings them together again and again. And always on your planet, those energies which have been together will continually find a way to meet and to be together, whether they live in Russia and the U.S. or what have you. They will, in each lifetime, find a way to get together and to bring the concepts to the other that they need to bring together. It is much more interesting our way.
Yes, that's an intriguing idea to us. When you say from the very beginning, are you talking about from the Big Bang on, huh?
This is it. This is correct. From that point in time, which all consciousness was at that point in time, but there are those, as we speak, of soul clusters and what have you, and those energies which, as they have gone out, have been automatically attracted to each other and have gone through many, many lifetimes together. The more lifetimes they go together, the stronger the attraction, whether it appears on your particular planet as love or hate, it is still a very strong attraction.
Can you tell us whether Phil and Ellen have been together in prior lives?
Most certainly they have. Certainly the one that is the strongest is a lifetime in Greece as well as one in Scandinavia. These are the two that we see the most readily. In the one in Greece, Ellen was a woman. We are looking to define the word. She was of a higher status than Phil. Phil was in that point in time, though, a teacher, which gave him a fairly high status, but of a different state. Ellen was one who was with many wealthy individuals and from a different, we say class for want of a better word, of individuals. But Phil, we are searching for his name. It began with an R, A-R-R. We do not have it. It is a strong A, an R, and a strong A. At that point in time, met her and did work to teach her, and they were very much together in that particular life. In the life that we see in Scandinavia, they had 7 children. They were in an area that would be called Sweden today. And they worked on the land. They were both more landowners and worked together to take care of their family. And in that life, we see Ellen as being very much into metaphysical things and into other realities more so than Phil.
Are they from the same soul cluster?
We are looking at this. No, they are not. They are from 2 soul clusters that are, for whatever reasons, very close to each other, but no, they are not. Ellen's soul cluster has much more to do with a thinking process that is not like that of Phil's. Hers is much more of a silent thinking process and a process that pulls together information and then makes quantum leaps, whereas we see Phil either all at once getting the information or pulling it together bit by bit. There's a slight difference in the way that they think and get their information, and this separates them out into 2 separate soul clusters, but the clusters are very similar.
All right. They are appreciative of all that information, I'm sure. I give you thanks from them as well as from us. And it's time for us to begin to end this today's session.
This will take us a moment, please. It may take longer than usual, so please give us a moment.
All right, thank you.